Warning, listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. You know, if you are a corporate executive who has built a successful career, there's a good chance you've experienced burnout, feeling tired, lack of motivation, and maybe even notice those extra pounds are starting to creep up. Energy levels and self-confidence can begin to decline, and the impact can take a toll on your physical and mental health. Well, my guest today is Sai Sierra. She is an anti-burnout coach who has worked with countless corporate women to avoid and overcome burnout. Sai's diverse experience comes from years of working on Wall Street in global leadership positions, and the high-pressure work culture forced her to seek a healthier lifestyle. Sai, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Jack, thank you for having me.
Well, I think this is something that a lot of people really need right now, especially with what we've been through the last couple of years. And, I think most people, the dynamic of their work life has changed dramatically from what it was just a few years ago. So I'd like to kick this off by, talking about burnout. It seems to be one of the most common symptoms of success. So how is it that we fall into that trap?
Well, the biggest trap, Jack, is the fact that no one realizes there's a problem and they think it's part of the corporate environment. A lot of women that I work with, including myself, when I started experiencing burnout, I was just extremely tired. I was fatigued. I was working endless hours thinking that this is normal. Like resting is lazy. So of course I was tired, but I thought that was normal. Also, I wasn't able to separate my work life and my personal life, especially when you're talking about working from home. A lot of people, they work from their kitchen. So they're checking emails 24/7. So they're not able to separate the work dynamic with their home dynamic. And that can sneak into, okay, well, this is acceptable behavior. Another example is you need stimulants in order for you to function. Like there was a point in time in which I needed 5 cups of coffee a day. And I thought that was normal because it just kept me awake and alert and kept me on top of my work schedule. And at night, I rewarded myself with a glass of wine. And that turned out to be every day because I used the excuse of saying, well, I deserve it. And a lot of people are doing that. And they don't necessarily notice that this is symptoms, but they don't necessarily think that this is a problem.
And then you bring up something really interesting because, 5 years ago, I think, the people talk about the American dream, but I think the American secret fantasy was working from home, right? That's just what everybody thought that would be it. If I could just work from home. But I think what a lot of people found, just like you talked about, is all of a sudden it's like they're going from bed to the computer and then find themselves going from the computer back to bed. That is just one long work day. Is that something that people feel like they have to do, you think? Because, if I'm working from home, I really have to go the extra mile. I have to make sure that they know that I'm actually doing something.
You're so right. You're so right, Jack. A lot of people have to prove that they're online, that they have to overprove themselves that they're working, they're being productive, and that has serious implications because then you end up working 11-hour days. I work with clients now, and they're even telling me that now that the offices are opening up a little bit because the COVID restrictions are getting a little relaxed, they prefer to go back into the office because at least they don't have to do the dual effort. Like one woman that I'm working with, she's working like from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. She has to get her she has to like try to run out, try to get her kids, come right back, and making dinner, and come back into her computer, type up presentations for the next early morning business day. It's just like, stop. It doesn't stop. It's endless.
I guess that's the thing, that delineation between work and home just goes away when you're always working from home. And one of the things that I've seen talking to people is it seems to be more and more common that especially with these, with executives and people with these big responsibilities and jobs, is that it gets to a point where it's almost like relaxation makes them nervous. Right? It stresses them out when they don't have something to do. Do you see that as being common?
Yeah, it's like the juggling act, and if they feel like they stop, a ball is going to drop. And with a lot of these executives or even entrepreneurs, they've got so much. They feel like they have so much responsibilities on their shoulders that they have to be in line with every single detail of the operations, and it's all falling on them. And you're absolutely right. Also, when it comes time for the working from home, that whole entire concept, the world is flat. Well, how many people are talking to London as if they're talking to somebody in New Jersey, or talking to somebody in Asia as if they're talking to somebody next door? Time zones are even getting blurred.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen that for people. Got to be on a call with London, got to be on a call with Tokyo. How come the people in London and Tokyo don't ever have to be in a call with America?
Believe me, they're feeling it too.
Okay, because I started thinking maybe they have it right, because I've known some, the culture, especially in some parts of Europe, are very much a hard cutoff. Even the most high powered people are like, nope, work is over. And that seems like a very difficult thing for us to. A very difficult thing for us to do here. So that's why I'd like to get into it is, when if you've recognized that burnout, you've recognized that, that tiredness, that energy levels, that, having to have those 5 cups of coffee, at what point do you say, whoa, how do you put the brakes on?
Well, I think that it's just a matter of really recognizing that first, and recognizing that this is a problem. My story happens to be I had to have a ton of bricks just drop into my head for me to even recognize it, because I thought all of this was normal, until I started seeing like little red bumps starting to appear in my arms, and it started to go all the way up my arms, and not until it started hitting my face that I started getting really nervous. I had to go to the doctor, and I'm like, what is this? They couldn't even figure this out. So it was really appearing on my body, and I had to go on serious steroids to get rid of it. And to this day, they don't know what was the cause. I'll tell you what the cause is. It's probably stress and burnout. So yeah, there's a lot of things that people can do, but they firstly, they have to recognize this is a problem, and it's not too late to fix it.
And I guess that's where people, they think, well, it definitely is a problem, but where to start to be able to fix it? Because I think that's, one of the biggest issues is being able to recognize that. But a lot of people don't think that slowing down is an option, that they have to just push through it. But I know that you feel otherwise, and you've experienced and been able to do that. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yes. So what I ended up doing was I work with my clients to try to build boundaries, and a lot of my clients work on their calendars, and trying to build the boundaries so that this is pretty much the hard stop, and really recognizing what's really important. So I've developed a program so that they could really, it's a three-pronged approach, and I try to work with their body, then their mind, and their spirit, and specifically their body, because that's where they're going to experience it first. And we spend a lot of time on that. Like, how are they going to deal with stressful situations? And I'll teach them breathing techniques, meditation techniques, techniques that I've learned in India, that really help me calm my nervous system and just help me slow down. I think that that's the biggest thing. Like, we are working and I'm saying we because I'm still in that, I'm in that world at this point. We're working at such a high paced world right now, like how fast internet and how much information is coming, and how we're 24/7 and how we're constantly available. We're working in such a high paced environment that we have to learn how to slow time down. And with these techniques like breathing and meditation, that's just one of the first steps that we take in order for you to calm that mind.
Now, what would you say to people that think, wait, whoa, man, meditation, India? What would people think if
Oh,
they found out I was doing something like that? Do you see that as being an obstacle to some people?
well, it's funny because when I was exploring these healing modalities, it was in the 90s when I was experiencing burnout. So it wasn't really common back then, especially in the corporate arena. So I was pretty much hiding a lot of what I was doing. But one of the things that's really good is with the internet and with the world opening up a little bit more, the word meditation, the word yoga, the word mindfulness, it's starting to become more mainstream. And a lot of corporations are bringing a lot of this mindset into their workforce because they're recognizing this is a problem. The people that they're working in the companies are actually starting to 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 um, to really fall apart. So when I start saying meditation and meditation and breathing exercises, yes, it sounds like a little intimidating because it's almost like learning a different language, but it's just breaking it down, and it's just simple exercises that you can do, and anyone can really do it.
It is something that be done, uh, kind of merged in with. It's not like a all or nothing. That you have to stop what you're doing and start doing this. Is something to be done because one of the things that I found really interesting from following what you're doing is I learned that 1 out of 4 professional women are considering downshifting the career or even leaving the workforce entirely due to burnout. But you said that that's not necessary. That there's a way to balance it. There's a way to have both that successful corporate career or entrepreneurial um, career while balancing. And I think that's the one thing that's been so elusive to so many. So, how
Yeah.
is it that you can kind of live in both of these worlds?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. That's one of the biggest fears that a lot of women that I'm working with face. They have a fear that if they stop, they can't maintain the level of achievement they've reached. They've gotten the title of partner, managing director, chief of, head of, or whatever the case is, thinking that they're not now part of the inner circle or the boys club. And if they stop, all of it's going to fall apart. And if it falls apart, well, they're either the sole breadwinner or the family depends on the second income. So they're scared to make any changes. And what I'm saying is you can make the change while you're working. So what I end up doing, Jack, is I offer one-on-one coaching. to just either help them with their immediate need, or I've also created a program specifically designed around burnout so that women can prevent or overcome it, and stay in their careers without leaving it. Because like me, I was so fed up that I was ready to leave. Um, and and just learning a lot of these methodologies and incorporating them into like my day to day, I was able to just slowly get myself back into a little bit more of a flow. So I've worked with a lot of experts around the world to help heal me. And since then, I've wanted to be able to consolidate all of that expertise into this program. And I approach it, like, as I said before, with a three-prong approach, like approaching it by the body first, then the mind and the spirit. So, starting with the body, I use a science to yoga as one of my methodologies. It's called Ayurveda, and it uses the biorhythms of nature for your body to flow with ease. So in Ayurveda, it's a science, and it's made out of, it's known for 5 elements, and all matter is made out of 5 elements: air, ether, fire, and water. And all of these elements need to function in harmony to be in optimal health. So including people. So in Ayurveda, we categorize people in like 2 predominant elements, and we call that doshas. So is either going to be pitta, which is primarily like a fiery personality, kapha, which is a little bit more grounding, and vata, which is more like airy. So we categorize people into those 3 categories. And when we start with the body, and when I work with people, we figure out what foods are best for your quote unquote dosha. So if you're a fiery personality and we're working with balance, like I'm a fiery personality. If I live in Texas, which is really hot right now, where you are right now, and I've got a fiery personality, and I'm eating jalapeno peppers, and I'm in a stressful environment, in a heated debate with 2 colleagues, obviously I'm going to be out of balance because I'm pushing so much fire into that scenario. And what I end up doing is, to combat that, I try to put in cooling activities in there, or cooling foods or cooling drinks into my day-to-day, so that I don't get as fired up, so that I can deal with stress and go into a combative situation in a little bit more of a calm demeanor. Does that make sense, Jack?
It does. And is it the physical act of those cooling things that bring on the effect, or is it something that's also mental when you do this? I'm trying to understand the workings of that.
Yeah, it's all of the above. So I start with food, which is physical. I also start with environmental. So I work with my clients to change their environment a little bit. Like maybe their office needs to be a little bit like, if you're a fiery personality, we need to change it so that's a little bit more cooling, a little bit more calm. I may even change your exercise habits by saying, if you're a fiery personality and you're constantly doing like kickboxing and CrossFit, I may say, you know what, you need to incorporate a little bit more yoga or something a little bit more calming into your exercise routine. Like in Ayurveda, we work like as if it's a science, and your body is a chemistry that we have to figure out what your balance is.
It's interesting that you say that, because it seems like so many, the impression or the implication that people have is success is kind of parallel with aggression, right? You're at war. You have to, do those things, those kickboxing, get aggressive, get fired up in order to take it on. But it's such an interesting approach. It's like, no. It's time to, to throttle that down a little bit to, I guess, to be able to enjoy that success and get past a lot of those burnout symptoms. Is that right?
That's right. And you know what? It's not just you. So I also, my biggest thing is you affect your team, you affect your peers, you affect your colleagues. So if you have unhealthy patterns, you also exude that into the people that you work with. And who wants to work with somebody who's like aggressive, and no one would want to work with you. And no one's going to want to be able to want to put the time into making whatever you're trying to push successful. So that's why we have to find some sort of balance, because it's not just that individual that we're affecting. It's a ripple effect of all of the people around you that's impacted by your burnout symptoms.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I know is very deeply rooted with stress is guilt, and I know that's probably a big part of what people feel, because when they're trying to create that balance, it seems like there's always something pulling that makes it difficult to reconcile, because when you are spending so much time focusing on your work, then you feel guilty about neglecting your family. But at the same time, when you make that decision to go and let's spend time with my family, then there's a little tinge of guilt that you're neglecting your work. So, how do you set those boundaries, or reconcile that to create that balance?
Wow, it's so interesting you say that, because when I say that I have a 3-prong approach, I start with the body, and then I start with the mind on like giving my clients like real world techniques that you can use to calm the nervous system. But what you're talking about is when I start working on the third prong, which is the spirit, and that's where the real work begins, and that's why it's like a little bit later on in the program. We delve into belief systems. And when you're talking about guilt, we look at where those blind spots are, and we uncover like things such as limiting beliefs. Like, what are the things that you picked up as a child? Um, and the lessons that you've learned. And what are the lessons that you've learned as a child that you have to unlearn because that carried over to adulthood? That guilt comes from something deeper.
You're saying that that's something that may just be a symptom of something deeper, maybe in your past. And is that something that you dig into and get into with the clients?
Yeah, we do, because one of the things that the first prong and the second prong, those are stopgaps. What I'm doing is I'm educating people, and giving them, okay, this is what's happening, and this is what you can do to help solve that. But like, I come from a technology background, and you kind of hear about the word root cause a lot. Like, you can fix the symptom, but if the root cause is not fixed, it's always going to creep up in some other way. So I do work with clients to try to figure out what is the root cause of what's driving this burnout. What's the root cause of what's driving this behavior? What's the root cause of what's driving this unhealthy pattern? And we do a lot of digging, and we try to like put that out to the light, so that it's a big aha moment, and then that's where the healing actually begins. So, I mean, like, I guess, let me just give you a quick little example, like, of how, like, you can grow up in the best childhood, but there's always going to be like learning patterns that you'd have to unlearn. Like, so for example, like think of a little Susie. She's playing on the softball team, and she's naturally good, right? And her coach and her teammates are praising her, and she's hitting a home run, she's catching the balls, and everyone's giving her accolades. This little Susie, she's so happy. So the next year, let's just, for example, like a new student comes into town, and she's now joining the softball team. And this new student is actually pretty good, this new player. And all of the praises are redirected to this new student. So what does Susie do? She practices endlessly to get better. And then she eventually surpasses that competition. So what did she learn? She learned as a child that overachieving gets results and eventually love.
Mm.
She learns that ignoring herself and her family to get better is rewarded as good behavior. So little Susie becomes big Susie in the corporate world, or a lawyer, or a head of, or whatever. Now she's in present day, and she's still carrying that same behavior of, like overachieving. And that fear leads her to operate at a level of achievement that she doesn't want to feel like she's losing that feeling of love ever again.
Wow. So we circle back around here when I asked you at the top of the show, how is it that we fall into that trap? That's something that we may have fallen into
As a child.
as a child. Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to perpetuate stereotypes, but I think it's something that can't be ignored. And especially when I was talking about how success, a lot of times people equate that with aggression or a war, or you have to fight for what we want. And I think that a lot of that is probably has a little bit of male to it, if I could say that. And I know that you, especially in your career, and especially in the '90s and working in the fields that you worked in, that it probably is male dominated, especially in that executive level. And I know that you work specifically with women. Are there things that that you feel are apply specifically to women, and especially in that type of environment, as something that women have to be aware of, or put in their plans with who they're working with, how they're working with the others around them?
Yeah. Yeah. You hit a soft spot in me, because you were absolutely right. I started my career working in an investment bank, specifically on the corporate bond sales and trading floor. So it was completely male dominated. It was high paced. You were completely rewarded for hard work, and you moved up the ranks through accomplishments. So as a woman, my peers and we had to work double as hard to get seen and to be recognized. And this is a huge contributing factor to burnout. We tend to lose our individuality. We lose our femininity. We can lose ourselves in that whole entire process. So I try to work with women to try to bring themselves back to their own self, embrace their femininity, embrace who they are, and they can actually still show up in the world as who they are and still be completely successful.
And so I think that's where the balancing act comes in, because
Yes.
a lot of times, and it's just a fact. A lot of people don't associate corporate success, that corporate that competitiveness that that needs to be there, with femininity, right? But you're saying that that's something that you don't necessarily have to ignore or hide in order to still enjoy that kind of success.
Absolutely. There is, and what I end up doing is, a lot of the women or a lot of the people, not even just the people I work with, but everyone out there has a unique gift, and they tend to hide it because they need to fit into a mold in order to succeed, because this is their impression of what success looks like. You need to look like this, you need to act like this, you need to be like this. And I'm all about seeing like the uniqueness in others, in everyone, and everyone has a special, unique gift that they can bring to the table, and everyone has the ability to succeed.
Well, I think some of your special, unique gifts that you bring to the table is that you've experienced both sides of this. You've experienced that world, that corporate world, that the aggressive world that that rewards the stuff that gets people to the point of burnout. And then you found something to relieve all that. It's almost like you're that Sherpa to a lot of people who got across the mountain and came back with a map. And I think that's something that is extremely valuable and makes you very, very unique because some of the stuff that you took on yourself to educate yourself that I guess is now benefiting a lot of others. You mentioned about your trip to India. Can you go in a little bit deeper? Really, what I'm looking for is kind of what fuels your passion for this. From going from that corporate world into not only healing yourself, but that made you decide to start using this to help others heal as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a long journey. The first few years of my career, so the first 17 years to be exact of my career, I was proving myself. I was in that rat race, and it didn't take long for me to reach that point of burnout. And there was a point in time in which I hit a wall. The long hours, the self-imposed stress, eating like crap on the fly, prioritizing work over personal life, no time for exercise, and numbing my unhappiness with food and alcohol. This lifestyle was like overly excessive, and it took its toll on me. And there was a little voice that just, not a little voice, a big voice that just said, you are headed towards a path of destruction. So I was living in New York at the time, and my office was located in New York. And on the way home, there was a yoga studio on the way to the subway. And I'd always pass it, and I was always interested by it. I'd see happy people, like just in bliss, hanging out in front of the yoga studio. And one day, I said, let me just go in there and see what this is all about. And that was kind of what was the foray into this whole world that opened up to me. Like, wow, like a whole new language, a whole new being, like, and just learning that little bit of yoga got me into learning a little bit of meditation. That got me into learning how to be a yoga instructor, and then got me into traveling to India for the last 11 years. And when I was in India, just continue and delving deeper and deeper into this mystical world of all of these healing modalities, learning from swamis and all of these fascinating teachers. So being in India was just so fascinating. And I want to be able to just bring this world over to a lot of the corporate women who have no time to, like Saibal, I have no time to travel to India. I need to do my work. Well, okay, I've done it, so let me teach you. So that's kind of where my passion is. I don't want to see these women in their 20s. Like I see them on the road to burnout. People in their 30s stuck in their career and like thinking about leaving their career, and their 40s just completely like devastated and overwhelmed, and it's just like a shell of the person that they were. Like, I want to be able to help these women just how I help myself, and using the knowledge that I've learned that throughout the years. I'm in my 50s now, so I've pretty much feel like I've lived pretty much a good life, like several lives in this lifetime.
Well, some of the stuff that you have done to really, reinforce a lot of this and to help these folks, the women that you work with, you like you said, becoming the yoga and meditation instructor. But you've also gone into you're an NLP practitioner. You're also have studied nutrition and health, sports, and fitness. Can you tell me how you've kind of combined all those to create the programs that you've created?
So I try to approach this holistically. As I said, I didn't really want to just focus on like the fun stuff, like, oh, you know what, do this diet and that'll probably help, and eat these foods and this will help solve your problem. It's nothing like that. There's a lot of mind, body, and spirit that incorporates into that. We spoke a little bit about those limiting beliefs that we have to uncover and learn. I've been learning a little bit. I've been delving a little bit more about that. That subject is just so fascinating, about how we've learned certain things as children, and we have to relearn them as adults. Like that saying, Jack, about we've come into this earth to learn lessons. Well, I kind of want to expand it by saying we come into this earth to learn lessons, but we have to unlearn them so that we can reach our highest capacity.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably one of the more difficult things for people to take on. It sounds
easy,
but
it's
yeah,
not.
it definitely is. So I guess, can you paint a picture for us on what it is to work with you? How do you work with your clients? Is it something that you do one-on-one? Is it something to be done remotely? How does that work?
I do it remotely. I work with my clients one-on-one, and I've designed that program. So it's a structured program, and so it's either one-on-one or it's a structured 9-month program that I work with my clients on trying to, like, stop, like, just overcome the burnout completely, and then delving deeper into that psyche of what are your limiting beliefs. It is 9 months because it does take a while for us to develop good habits. And as I said before, remember when I said with Ayurveda, it's almost like we have to figure out what your balancing act is. Like, what's your dosha? What's the balancing act? How are we going to change your environment? How are we going to change your lifestyle? How are we going to promote a healthier lifestyle? So there's a lot of work that we do, and I do that in a one-on-one basis.
And it sounds like it's not just about stopping the bad stuff. It sounds like the first part is, okay, let's stop the snowball of damage, but then let's turn it around to reach your true potential.
Absolutely. At the end, that's why I save the limiting beliefs discussion and the real digging and the real work towards the very end, because at this point you're pretty much detoxed of all of the bad habits that you may have developed through trying to survive the corporate world, like like bad habits like eating on the fly, like grabbing going to the vending machine, grabbing a Snickers bar and calling it lunch, like things like that. So trying to break free of those bad habits. So by that point, we should be detoxed of a lot of those bad habits, and we can really focus on what is the root cause. What's driving you to overwork, overachieve, overperform to the detriment of you?
Wow, that's there's so many things that try to get people to the point of overachieving, overperforming, and I think a lot of people just don't realize the damage that causes until it actually happens. And so, that's where I got to thank you for coming on and sharing this, because I think it's something that people realize something's not right, but they're just not sure what that is, or how it can, how they can resolve that. And I think that you really put a spotlight on that, and probably open a lot of people's eyes around this. So I have to thank you for coming on and sharing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
How can people find out more? How can they get involved with Sierra and the things that you're doing?
Oh, you know what? A lot of my information is going to be on my website, sisierra.com, SYSIERRA.com. So my programs are there. You can also get in touch with me there. And it's going to have all of my social media in there as well, too.
Sai, again, thank you so much for coming on. It really has been eye-opening, and see the journey that you've been through, and how you, again, to me, you're that Sherpa that brought back the map and leading other people on that journey. Just remarkable. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, there you have it. Definitely, if you feel that burnout coming on, it's something that it's not going to resolve itself. So definitely check out Sai Sierra. Again, that's SYSIERRA.com. And we'll have a link right there on the show post as well. Until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.